Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. The last video that I have posted was about President Putin, and I had a question: is he part of that Chabad? I probably mispronounced this again, since many of you know I don't know too much about it, nor I really want to become an expert in that organization or movement or belief system or religion, whatever it is. I was asking some questions, and I have more questions today that I will be going through. Thanks to you, thanks to many of you who are leaving comments under my video. And I'm sure that there are some of you who don't agree, and that's absolutely fine with me. You actually feel offended, some of you, that I even question Putin, which I think this in itself, it's a very dangerous place to be, because I believe we have to question everyone. And I especially question those so-called experts who took 2 or 3 vaccinations and then even got boosters. So let me just put it this way, because if you couldn't see through that BS Schmovit story, then what are we really seeing in this big picture here? So we will get to that. We will get to the Schmovit reaction to Schmovit in Russia as well today. But I have a number of things prepared, so it might take a while to go through, and I hope you stay with me, and I will have more questions today. But before we do this, I want to say really big thank you to everyone who donated on PayPal, and I really appreciate it, guys. You don't have to do it, but you support me, and it really means a lot to me. I want you to know that. Thank you to Elżbieta. Dziękuję, Pani Elżbieto. Thank you to Maggie. Thank you to Fred. Thank you to Steven, and thank you to Carl for your donations on PayPal, as well as for everyone who left super thanks under my last video, and to, I think, one person who I don't have the name, who joined my Patreon as well. Thank you so much. It really, really helps me going. So let's start with the comment. I think I have about 3 comments from you guys that I will be reading today. So let's start with this comment that is from someone who actually lives in Russia, and I believe he is, let me just find it, he is a Russian viewer. This is from my last video. Right here you can see Wireless says, like you, I began experiencing something similar about 6 months ago, despite remaining a patriot of my country. So that is a Russian person here. I hadn't heard of Chabad until today, but I had a feeling something abnormal was happening there. People of a certain nationality were involved in virtually every key issue, both in the Russian-Ukrainian conflict and in the interactions with the United States. Russia's actions on the front lines are truly too slow and sluggish. For some reason, headquarters and various Ukrainian government institutions aren't being destroyed to hasten the end of the conflict, and not to mention the leadership, which could have been eliminated many times over. Everything resembles a pre-planned operation whose goals differ, or you say differ from those stated. It's not about protecting Russian-speaking people or eradicating Nazism. They represent something else, something abhorrent. I'm sorry if I mispronounced this, guys. Since the beginning of 2022, Russia has adopted numerous questionable laws that, as the public is debating, are harmful and dangerous, affecting all areas of life, from citizens' personal lives to the economy, finance, production, as well as security and migration. Frankly, people are outraged, but in the official media and public information space, everything appears to be fine. Thank you for your work and best wishes from Russia. Thank you very much for your comment. So here I want to say a few things before we go to the short video with Klaus Schwab. So this is what I said in my latest video. I understand the reasoning for those who believe that keeping Zelensky in power from the Russia standpoint is beneficial because we know he's an actor and he's put into this role and it could be worse, but we have Zelensky, so we know what we're dealing with. And I was buying that opinion. I was buying that analyst, but I am not buying this any longer. I think a lot of lives would be saved if they would just remove certain people as well as certain places where, for example, those decision-making centers are. So that is one side of it. Prolonging this is not something I am reasoning with anymore. And that's why this comment that comes from someone who is from Russia is very important. I want to add a few more things. Of course, there is a very high approval of President Putin in Russia, and I've seen it, but I also have seen that there are many people who are not willing to share their opinions since, you know, I've been interacting with quite a number of people. So that is also a very tricky ground to walk on, very dangerous ground sometimes, and you don't want to be putting people into position where they don't feel safe answering your questions. So now many of you are thinking, so wait a second, Russia is fighting with the globalism, right? When I say Russia, I just want to say one thing, guys. This is not against the people, what I'm trying to ask here, because I know how much Russian people went through in history. And at the end of the day, we have to focus on the big picture, and we will get to this big picture. What is the ultimate goal of this entire political theater that we are experiencing? This is about all those governments worldwide that are using the citizens to bring into fruition the agenda. And this agenda has been represented by World Economic Forum, by the IMF and all those places, United Nations. You know, Russia is still part of UN. Russia is still part of the World Economic Forum. But how does it look like now in 2025? Is Russia still part of it fully or is not? So we're going to look into it and see. First, let's go to the video. That is an older video, but it speaks about President Putin. So one quick, short video. I'm sure many of you have seen this already.
And I have to say, when I mention now names like Mrs. Merkel, even Vladimir Putin and so on, they all have been young global leaders of the World Economic Forum. Mm-hmm. But what we are very proud of now is the young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, President of Argentina and so on, that we penetrate the cabinets. So yesterday I was at a reception for Prime Minister Trudeau, and I know that half of this cabinet, or even more half of this cabinet, are actually young global leaders of the World Economic Forum.
And that's true in Argentina too. Wow.
Yeah.
Sorry. That's true in Argentina as well.
It's true in Argentina, and it's true in France now. Mm-hmm. I'm with the president, who is a young global leader. But what is important for me, and
so that was Klaus Schwab years and years ago, many years ago, talking about, you know, Trudeau and Milei. By the way, as far as Javier Milei goes, I think he is a cousin of Benjamin Netanyahu. They are related, bloodline, no kidding. Maybe in another video I will show you the evidence of it. But now, I knew about this, that President Putin was part of this young leaders, like this initiative for the young leaders under the World Economic Forum agenda, right? And I thought that the reason for it is because he wanted to go inside and see like to figure out their game. That's how I really believed, and I actually even asked one of my guests a while back this question, and he was thinking the same. But lately, in the light of the things that I'm coming across, I am not so sure about this, guys. So let's take a look at the article right here. This is, one moment, let me find it. I have so many windows open here. Here we go. This is from Spiv number 26, I think. Anyway, let me scroll down. We see the year of it. 2017, I believe this was. So here is an article from the Russian portal. And you see here the picture. Here is Vladimir Putin. Across the table is Klaus Schwab. And it says Russian President Vladimir Putin meets with World Economic Forum Chairman Klaus Schwab. And this is in Russia. Clearly, you can tell by the interior design. So Russian President Vladimir Putin met with World Economic Forum Executive Chairman Klaus Schwab in St. Petersburg. During the meeting, Putin noted the importance and significant benefits of the World Economic Forum and Davos as an international platform that supports people in their efforts to work openly within the framework of existing international law and establish contacts between business people and government officials. Now I'm going to be quoting Putin here. We have always maintained relations with your forum that you founded, and we will continue to support it. And of course, Russian representatives have always taken part and will take part in the events you hold. For our part, we are holding similar events, which, of course, aim to establish business contacts with Russia's partners above all else. We are holding the St. Petersburg Economic Forum here in St. Petersburg, as well as in the Far East in Siberia and in southern Russia. That's what Putin said. And Schwab noted that the World Economic Forum and Russia have had a high level of cooperation for many years. It has always been important for me that Russian representatives take part in our events in Davos. This has always been of particular importance to me. Our goal, as you already mentioned, is to strengthen cooperation between business people and government agencies. We are convinced that the significant challenges that we face today, be it climate and environmental problems or problems of economic growth, can only be solved through cooperation, specifically at the global level. So this source is from Kremlin.Russia. So this is the source, if you're questioning my sources. And this was during the St. Petersburg Economic Forum in 2017. Okay, so you say, well, this is old news. This is before the situation in Ukraine. Fair enough. Let's go to the question that I pretty much Googled. Let me find this. Is Russia part of the World Economic Forum? So now when you put this, is Russia part of the World Economic Forum? It says, no, Russia is not currently part of the World Economic Forum, as the World Economic Forum froze ties with Russian entities following the invasion of Ukraine in 2022. This means Russian officials and business leaders were not invited to the Davos meeting, and Russia no longer has a presence at the annual gathering. So there's more, let's see, pre-invasion. So it looks like they are not part of it at this moment. However, the digital ID is going to be implemented, but it's just under a different name. Now I want to take you to, let me show you where we're gonna go. Now I want to take you to something very interesting I came across, and that is an order Now, a moment, guys, I have so many windows open here. Order of friendship. What is this? So let's read this. Order of Friendship. The Order of Friendship is a state decoration of the Russian Federation established by Boris Yeltsin by presidential decree 442 of 2nd of March 1994. So this is the medal of friendship with Russia, and a lot of people have received this. Now, when we scroll down through many people, we're gonna see, and this really is, I don't understand this, but let's look here. One of those people who received this Order of Friendship is Christine Lagarde. Right here, Christine Lagarde, who is the president of the European Central Bank and former managing director of the IMF. So I wondered, when did she receive this? Because this is clearly from Putin. This is not from Yeltsin. So let's close this. Now let's go and see when Christine Lagarde received, so we are talking IMF bank now, okay? When she became the receiver, when she was rewarded with this order. Christine Lagarde was awarded the Order of Friendship in 2010. So this is by Putin. She received the Russian state decoration in her capacity as the managing director of the International Monetary Fund, IMF. Okay, so the next question is Russia still part of the IMF? And how does this look like? Let's look into this. Thank you for your patience today, because I have a lot of windows open. Just bear with me, guys. I cannot find it, so let's just Google it. I think I close it. So let's just Google it. We go to Google and we're gonna ask this question. We already done with the World Economic Forum. So Russia, yes, Russia is a member of the International Monetary Fund, IMF. It joined on June 1st, 1992. Recent activity, let's focus on the recent one. An IMF staff team held virtual discussions with Russian authorities in September 2024 as part of an upcoming Article 4 consultation. Through some in-person meetings were postponed due to criticism. So it looks like they still are part of this International Monetary Fund, which this is global, right? We're talking global here. So the next questions that I have was about, actually, let me take you to the comments, one of your comments. This is from, let's look here. Someone says this, Gavin's Wells says this, Russian titanium is still being exported to the West. It comes back to the Ukraine as weapons to kill Russians. It's all dirty. Interesting thought, isn't it? So now let's look into those oligarchs, because everyone is saying that Putin has removed all those oligarchs who were taking advantage of the Russian Federation, of Russia, and he just get rid of them. And I wanted to see how many of those oligarchs. Again, I'm just trying my best to find the answers to my questions here, and I will be digging for more information. So I wanted to know those oligarchs that are good, allegedly, right? What kind of nationality do they have? For example, Israeli passports, you know, or they are just Russian oligarchs. And I looked up first this, I just ask a simple question right here. One moment. Who Putin arrested, right? So here it says that Khodorkovsky was arrested, one of those oligarchs. But here it says, who are the 7 oligarchs of Russia? And it gives the names. The most influential oligarchs from the Yeltsin era include Roman Abramovich, you know who he is. He doesn't claim any connections with Putin, or, they are not friends, as he says, but I think there were some sayings that they are, I don't know. Boris Berezovsky, Vladimir Gusinsky, Mikhail Khodorkovsky, so this is the one who was arrested, Vladimir Potanin, Alexander Smolensky, and Vladimir Vinogradov. Now, we're going to close this, and we're going to go to an interesting observation I have. Because here are my simple question. Moscow richest man close to Putin. That's what I did. Because, you just ask simple questions. So this Google thing answers. The 10 most prominent oligarchs of the early Putin era included Roman Abramovich, Oleg Deripaska, Mikhail Prokhorov, Alisher Usmanov, Viktor Vekselberg, doesn't sound Russian really, Leonid Mikhelson, Arkady Rotenberg, that's also interesting, Gennady Timchenko, Andrei Guriev, and Vitaly Molkin. So some of them good, some of them bad. So let's see who remains close to Putin. And we just go to Wikipedia, who always lies, but maybe some things are true. Let's look one by one and what kind of nationality they are and what kind of citizenships they have. Leonid Mikhelson, who is a Russian-Israeli billionaire, oligarch and businessman, CEO, chairman, and major shareholder of the Russian gas company Novatek. So he is Russian-Israeli billionaire. And it looks like he's good. I think he's good. He's married, lives in Moscow, and all is good. Всё хорошо. Let's go to the next person. I just want to see, because all those names are quite interesting, and I don't know much, but if Wikipedia says Israeli, that's interesting, right? Let's look at Arkady Rotenberg. Arkady Rotenberg. It just says it's Russian, billionaire businessman and oligarch. With his brother, Boris Rotenberg, he was co-owner of Stroygazmontaj, the largest construction company for gas pipelines and electrical power supply lines in Russia. So it looks like he's a friend of Putin. And why is that? Because when he was age 12, Rotenberg and Vladimir Putin both joined Anatoly Rakhlin's Sambo Club. So they practice judo, right? And his brother, let's look at him, Boris Rotenberg, is a close friend to Putin as well, because they were training together. So based on his friendship with Vladimir Putin, his company became closely aligned with Gazprom. Rotenberg is a member of the St. Petersburg Connection, a powerful energy lobby under the leadership of Putin. So nothing suspicious really, but more those who live in Russia. But it looks like nothing to look into really, maybe. Now let's look into another person from that list that was given by Google. Let's look at this one, Viktor Vekselberg. So who is he? He's a Russian-Israeli businessman and oligarch. He is the founder and chairman of Renova Group, a Russian conglomerate. Born in Ukraine, he has Russian, Israeli, and Cypriot citizenship. So is he still in Russia or he has been arrested? Let's see. Maybe this is a good one. You know, it's interesting. It's good to know. He has so he lives in Switzerland. So he probably is not a good one, right? Now one more person, and we go to COVID, Schmovit. One more person, everyone. Liev. This is an interesting guy. So this is the one that is like a lot to dig into. Liev Avnerovich Lieviev, who is an Israeli diamond magnate, investor, and philanthropist. Lieviev was the chairman and majority shareholder of Africa Israel Investments, a diversified conglomerate between 1997 and 2019. He lived in Israel, He is noted philanthropist for Chabad Lubavitch. So this is the Chabad I was talking about in my last video, causes in Eastern Europe and Israel. And billionaire, of course. Now here, he has connection with Trump as well. So let's look into this. According to an article published in The Guardian, we know it's Guardian, but Donald Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, sealed a real estate deal in 2015 worth $295 million to purchase space in the former New York Times building on the 43rd Street near Times Square from Lieviev's firm's Africa Israel Investment and 5 Mile Capital. And later, in October 2016, Kushner used the space as a basic for $285 million loan from Deutsche Bank. The ties between Trump family real estate deals and Russian money interest attracted the Justice Department Special Counsel Robert Mueller. That's another story. So we know that a lot of misinformation here, but this is a person who allegedly still has some ties in Russia. Let's look into this. He organized the Federation of Jewish Communities of Russia in 1997 for Russian Jews. So guys, maybe you want to look more into this guy, Liev Avnerovich Lieviev. And I think he makes lots of money on diamonds. That's what I'm aware of. So now, let's look into one more thing. How Russia was responding to the COVID-Schmovit situation. Here is, again, a simple question. Russia government response to COVID. So this is a long, detailed what happened, when, and so. But there was a travel and entry restrictions. We know this. There was a lockdown. Let me just scroll down and read this to you. On March 27th, as a follow-up to Putin's address to the nation, Prime Minister Mikhail Mishustin ordered all reservations at pensions or holiday houses to be cancelled from 28 March to 1st of June, recommended the regional authorities to close all the pistes, at records for the same period, instructed them to force all the public eating places except for the delivery services to suspend activities from 28th of March to 5th of April, and recommended that citizens refrain from traveling. On the same day, the Minister of Education announced the postponement of the United States exam from the end of May to the beginning of June. Okay, here on March 30th, as Moscow and Moscow Oblast declared a lockdown, Mishustin urged all regions to follow the example and take similar measures. He also announced a bill that would raise fines for breaching quarantine requirements. So, you know, I didn't know many details about this. I have to admit, guys, I didn't. So it looks like the restrictions there were also implemented. And it looks like people were on lockdown as well. And I know that a different kind of vaccine has been suggested. So what kind of vaccine has been suggested? Because this to me, if you are acting like everyone else as far as the global agenda, the Schmovit scam, why? Like, why are you doing this? You know this is BS. You know this is BS. Why are you complying with this? If you're fighting the globalism, if you're fighting the evil, why you are doing the lockdowns? Please answer this to me. All the Russian viewers, like, are you seriously believing in Schmovit? I think it's about time to wake up. So let's look into this. What was the reaction to the vaccine? And how mysteriously the person died. So this is what Putin said. Putin rejects mandatory COVID jobs as Russia sees record deaths. All right. Doesn't matter, it's from French, but the story is actually legit. President Vladimir Putin on Wednesday said he was opposed, this is from 2021, by the way, to mandatory coronavirus vaccinations for Russians, but urged the jab skeptic population, so those who are anti-vax, he urged them to get inoculated as his country battles a deadly third wave. I mean, what is this? His comments came as Russia earlier Wednesday reported 669 coronavirus deaths over the past 24 hours. Maybe it was 666. Like, what is going on, guys? I'm like richly a pandemic high of fatalities for the second day in a row, according to a government tally. Russia in mid-June saw infections spike, this is 2021 again, in a third wave driven by the highly transmissible Delta variant. You remember the variant they had? First identified in India, authorities have said, and worsened by a sluggish inoculation drive. Although free jabs, so free vaccination, have been available since early December, only around 15% of Russia's population had received at least one dose of Wednesday, according to the Gogov websites. Okay, so this clearly shows that Russian people are not stupid, okay? And we know that they are not. So 15% of Russian population had received at least one dose. So here is what Putin said. The widening policy has prompted concerns that all Russians eventually would be required to be vaccinated, which Putin shut down Wednesday while fiddling questions in his annual phone-in session. So he was opposing to the mandatory vaccination, and that's what he said. I do not support mandatory vaccinations, the Russian president said. Still, Putin, as he has done repeatedly in recent months, called on Russians to get vaccinated. So he said he doesn't want this to be mandatory, but it is necessary to listen. That's what he said. Not to people who understand little about this and spread rumors, but to specialists. He told Russians, the majority of whom polls show oppose receiving coronavirus jabs. If a person is sick without a vaccine, then the long-term consequences can be very serious. No lockdown. Surveys show that Russians are particularly skeptical of the country's homegrown jabs. So, I don't know, I think they were okay with this. Sputnik V and other names here. And Putin said that the 4 homegrown vaccines were better than foreign alternatives, naming AstraZeneca and Pfizer, he added that he himself had been vaccinated with Sputnik V. The president's plea for Russians to get inoculated came after the Kremlin Tuesday conceded that its target of vaccinating 60% of the population by autumn will not be possible. Okay, so I've heard that those vaccines were better. Again, I don't know. I didn't take any, and I was never planning to. And we know what's happening to people who took it. But let's say that those were a better option. I mean, why are you even promoting this whole thing? I have no idea. But I didn't look into this before, as I'm doing right now. So here I came across interesting article, and I'm sure many of you know, the person who was actually the scientist behind the Sputnik vaccine that was implemented in Russia was found strangled to death. His name was Andrei Botikov, and he was the vaccine creator. During the COVID-19 pandemic, there was a race among the world's major economic powers to patent vaccine against the coronavirus. Sputnik V was one of them and was created by a group of 18 Russian scientists, including Andrei Botikov. According to Russian reports this Sunday, the scientist had been found murdered in his apartment northeast of Moscow. News sources were informed by a worker at the Moscow Research Center that a 29-year-old man broke into Botikov's home and strangled him with a belt. Russian President Vladimir Putin honored the virologist with the Order of Merit for the Fatherland Award for his work on the COVID vaccine in 2021. A statement said that his death is being investigated as a murder, the committee which is the investigating authority in Russia. So why? Like who did this? What's the reason? What's happening here? And I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just like, who did this? The Pfizer did it, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson. Who killed this scientist? What's the reason? Or maybe he knew something that they didn't want people to know. And I want to end this video today that is really all over the place because I had so many windows open for you guys that it's sometimes hard to manage. One woman show, by the way, as you know. I want to end with one comment. I had so many comments from you, and I'm very grateful for that. Let's see if this is the one. It's not this one, so let me go to one more, because that's a perfect summary for today's video. Someone says this, and this is from Lisa. Trust not in men. You do not get to the top of this fallen world without being compromised and part of the club. Full stop. Great report. Thank you, Anya. So this is the comment, but there is more I want to say. And this is the story that is kind of like wrapping this up in a very strange bow that is not pretty at all. I really want you to look at the big picture now, because what's happening right now, it's again divide and conquer. And we know this. This is the old formula, as we know they are repeating over and over again. So let's step away from all of this and let's see what is the goal. The goal is to have one world government, right? That at first might look like it's just an illusion of different governments, but they are all leading to one system that will be like one government. So one system all around the world. What does it mean? That means digital ID. That means fully controlling the citizens, knowing where they're going, monitoring them, what they are talking about, social media, what platforms you can use, what platforms you cannot use, what you say, what you don't say. We know this, right? And there is this story that many of you've heard about, you know, those very radical people who have this, I don't know how to call it, but they believe that well, I would say Mossad is behind it, but they believe, okay, Mossad is behind the movements. They believe that the most extreme ones do, that there is a story in Old Testament about the emergence of the Jewish people and the ancient Israel. And they say, I written this down because this is like really the screenplay of screenplays. They say that there have been 2 temples in Jerusalem, and the Messiah, and this is not Jesus Messiah, this is not Jesus Christ Messiah, this is Jewish Messiah, will return only when certain things take place. So what has to take place for the Messiah, the Jewish Messiah, to return? You have to have the 3rd temple, and that is the Solomon's Square Temple, you know, like those squares, black squares, I think, they put on the head. And by the way, in United Nations, if you've never been, there's a temple. If you go to the United Nations building, on the 1st floor, you come in, turn to the right, in the corner. I've been there, I've seen it. I was like, what is this crazy place? It's a temple. And it has like a black cube in it. Black cube. And they pray there. So anyway, has to be the 3rd temple, the Solomon Square Temple. And this is apparently in the place where Gaza is. And that's not it. Also, one of the reasons for the Messiah to return is Edom, which means the West. The West. That means Europe, United States, Canada, etc. has to be destroyed. So how you destroy the West? You destroy the West, as they say, by all means, and the means to do it, in their idea, is to use Islam. So you have those foundations like Soros and others who are sponsoring the movements, and you know, those extreme people sponsoring the movements of this illegal migration of those migrants towards towards the West, to create chaos. So we have problem, reaction, and solution, right? How they even have those migrants? Well, first they have to create wars. So we have those Zionists, or, you know, those behind the wars that are created from the US side and the Britain, like Tony Blair and Cameron, that's Prime Minister Cameron, right? And they create those wars in those regions, Iraq, Libya, many other places. And the people are migrating not to south, but to north. So Edom can be destroyed. So we have problem, reaction, and solution. And so the problem is there. The reaction is already there. Well, actually, there will be another stage of the reaction, because the ultimate goal here is to create this total control. So first you have to have the civil uprising from the nations that are being flooded with those migrants. So kind of civil wars in many countries. And then, because you cannot handle it, you suggest the solution, and that is the digital ID and full control, monitoring everyone, drones flying over, etc., etc. But here I want to stretch this a little bit more. That may be very, very crazy, but let's just imagine this, the drone situation. Let's just imagine that you have a lot of terrorist attacks on Russia from you know who. What those attacks do? You want to protect the citizens, so you want to make sure that everyone is legit and everyone is good, because those attacks are intensifying. You could remove those people who are creating this a while back already, but because of those attacks, you have to implement certain measures in order to control the situation. So you have to counter it with your way. I hope you understand what I'm saying. And that is also to have the digital ID, to have the control over who is coming in, who is getting out, that is of course common sense, but you have to monitor how they are communicating, where they are going, what they are saying. You have to also make sure that they are not sponsoring certain organizations, and that is all clear. But what if there is another side to it? What if this is also leading to a full control of the citizens and being monitored 24/7? I'm looking at all of this what's taking place right now, and some of you say, so China is the only place that is good. I don't know. I honestly don't think so. I think this is all global, and I know that China has a lot of connections with Israel, and just that port in Israel, Haifa, I think the investments that China does it there, and you say, oh, it's just business and business. No, it's nothing. It's just business. It's all connected. So you have to look at the big picture, guys. In my opinion, you cannot trust any government, and it's sometimes a scary place because you're like, who am I trusting? Well, are they God or they not? Who has power over you, God or the government? Isn't it crazy? So many people on this planet gave their power away to few and allowed them to be completely programmed and monitored and decide about their lives on this will of this financial scam and living your life just to pay the bills, sign the mortgage, have credits, and be slaves. That's what's happening. Because how you can live without money, right? All of this comes to power, and I think we have to ask those questions. And I know I might trigger a lot of you, and I probably will lose some followers, but it's important to really question everyone. And if you think that there is a holy person that is going to save everyone and everything is for the good, I don't believe in a war as now. I don't believe anymore justifying a cause of something. How are you going to justify prolonging the war? More people are dying. So when there's the end of it, when do you decide this is it? Well, you only decide when a certain nation, for example, is going to move to a certain region and decide that this is it. This is the new Israel, and we will start again. That's all I have for you, everyone. Thank you so much for watching and for being the supporter of my channel. The links will be down below in the description box. I appreciate your patience today very much because I'm aware that the flow was different because I was a bit in many different directions today, but there are many questions and I want to have more answers to them. And if you feel offended that I am questioning someone who I used to look at differently for a long time, well, maybe I was influenced as well, you know. Maybe I was not able to see things that I see now and ask questions that I ask now. I only trust God at this point and my intuition. And to be honest with you, unless I feel that it resonates with me completely, then I will say it. But I have too many doubts at this point. So thank you so much, guys. If you want to support my work, you know what to do. The links are down below in the description box. Lots of love, and remember, we are the leading edge, and we are saving humanity. Bye, everyone.